The dashboard clock glowed 2:47 a.m. Lorelei Ashford sat alone in her decade-old Honda Civic, parked 3 houses down from the Blackwell estate. Her hands trembled around her phone. The leather steering wheel pressed cold against her forehead as she listened to the recording for the 7th time that night. A woman's voice, sharp as broken glass, cut through the speaker. "I can't stand you three. You're always crying, always needing something." Then came the sound that made Lorelei's chest tighten. 3 infants wailing in terror. 9 months old, too young to understand cruelty, old enough to feel it. She pressed pause, pressed play again, each time hoping she'd heard it wrong, each time knowing she hadn't. The voice belonged to Clarissa Beaumont. Beautiful, elegant, engaged to one of Los Angeles' wealthiest men, future stepmother to 3 motherless boys, monster in designer heels. Lorelei's thumb hovered over the delete button. One tap and the evidence would vanish. One tap and she could pretend tonight never happened. One tap and she could walk away from the most dangerous decision of her life. But she saw them. Behind her closed eyelids, she saw 3 pairs of brown eyes. Emmett reaching for her with chubby fingers. Jasper's tears on her shoulder. Silas watching her with trust she didn't deserve. She saw another child too. A girl with dark curls and a gap-toothed smile. 8 years old forever. Sophie. "I couldn't save you," Lorelei whispered to the empty car. "But I won't fail them." She locked her phone, started the engine, and drove away from the only job that had made her feel whole since the day she buried her daughter. Tomorrow she would return. Tomorrow she would fight. Tomorrow everything would explode. But tonight she needed to remember how it all began. The wrought iron gates of the Blackwell estate opened like the mouth of something vast and hungry. Lorelei gripped the steering wheel tighter as she guided her Honda up the circular driveway, past fountains that cost more than she'd earned in 5 years, past marble statues and manicured hedges shaped like perfect spheres. Beverly Hills in winter looked the same as summer. Endless blue sky, palm trees swaying, wealth so thick you could taste it in the air. The mansion rose before her. 4 stories of glass and stone, all sharp angles, and floor-to-ceiling windows that reflected the morning sun like shields. This was not a home. This was a statement. Lorelei parked near the service entrance as instructed. Her hands found the rearview mirror, automatically checking her reflection. 42 years old, lines around her eyes that hadn't been there 5 years ago. Hair pulled back, severe and practical. No makeup, no jewelry except the small silver locket around her neck. Inside that locket, one photograph, one face, one unbearable memory. She touched it once for luck, grabbed her bag, stepped out into the California sunshine that felt nothing like warmth. The service door opened before she could knock. A woman stood there, late 60s, thin as a rail, eyes sharp enough to cut. "You're late," the woman said. Lorelei glanced at her watch. 8:57 a.m. Her interview was scheduled for 9. "I'm early actually." The woman's mouth thinned. "Mr. Blackwell doesn't do early. He does exactly on time or you're late. Remember that." She stepped aside. "I'm Mrs. Hendricks. I manage the house. You'll report to me and May Blackwell. No one else." The kitchen stretched before them, all white marble and stainless steel. A room designed to be photographed, not lived in. Lorelei's sneakers squeaked against the polished floor. "The nursery's on the 3rd floor," Mrs. Hendricks said, already walking. "Mr. Blackwell won't come up there. Hasn't since the babies came home from the hospital. You'll have full responsibility. Feeding, changing, bathing, sleep schedules. Everything." They climbed the stairs. Lorelei noticed details without meaning to. Professional habit, the family photos that stopped at the 2nd floor landing. A wedding portrait, a man with dark hair and tired eyes beside a woman whose smile could light up rooms. Both young, both glowing, both one of them dead now. Mrs. Blackwell passed 2 weeks ago. Mrs. Hendricks said without looking back. Childbirth complications. The doctors tried everything. She held on for 3 days, long enough to see them, not long enough to name them. Lorelai's throat tightened. She'd read the obituary. Isabel Blackwell née Morrison, 32 years old, survived by her husband Nathaniel and 3 infant sons. Services private. Donations to the Children's Hospital in lieu of flowers. The obituary hadn't mentioned what Lorelai knew happened in those 3 days. How a woman could bleed out slowly from the inside. How modern medicine sometimes meant prolonging death rather than preventing it. How a mother could whisper goodbye to children who would never remember her voice. 3rd floor. The hallway stretched long and silent. Thick carpet muffled their footsteps. Mrs. Hendricks stopped at a white door with a silver handle shaped like a crescent moon. They're sleeping now. They'll wake soon. They always wake soon. Her hand rested on the doorknob but didn't turn it. Blackwell will meet you in his office at 9:15. 15 minutes to see if you're what we need. And if I'm not, then you leave and we'll call the next name on the agency list. Mrs. Hendricks finally opened the door. We've gone through 4 nannies in 2 weeks, Miss Ashford. The longest one lasted 3 days, so I suggest you be what we need. The nursery smelled like powder and milk and something else, something sad. 3 cribs arranged in a semicircle. 3 mobiles spinning slowly in the air conditioning. 3 tiny shapes bundled in white blankets. Lorelai stepped inside. The door closed behind her with a soft click. She approached the first crib slowly. The nameplate read, Emmett, in silver letters. He slept on his back, one fist curled near his mouth. Dark hair, same as his father. Even in sleep, his expression looked determined. This one would be stubborn. This one would fight. The second crib, Jasper. Lighter hair, longer lashes. He made soft sounds in his sleep, little whimpers, that tugged at something deep in Lorelai's chest. This one would be gentle. This one would feel everything. The third, Silas. Eyes open, not crying, just watching. Watching her with an intensity that didn't belong on a 2-week-old face. This one would be smart. This one would see too much. Hello, Lorelai whispered. I'm Lorelai. Silas blinked. Once, twice. Then his face crumpled and he began to cry. Within seconds, all 3 were wailing. Lorelai didn't hesitate. She'd done this before. Different babies. Different nursery. But grief and need sounded the same in every language. She lifted Silas first, supported his head, brought him to her shoulder, hummed low and steady an old song her mother used to sing. No words, just melody, just rhythm, just the promise that someone was here, someone would stay. Silas quieted, his small body relaxed against her. 1 down, 2 to go. She managed to scoop up Jasper with her other arm, settling both babies in the crook of her elbows. Emmett continued screaming, red-faced and furious. Lorelai sat in the rocking chair, adjusting her grip, and began to rock. Slowly, steadily, the way the earth turns, the way tides move, inevitable and gentle and certain. I've got you, she murmured. You're safe. I've got you. Jasper's crying faded to hiccups. Emmett fought it longer, stubborn just as she thought. But eventually, exhaustion won. His sobs softened. His eyes drooped. 3 babies breathed in sync against her chest. Lorelai closed her eyes, let herself feel it. This weight, this trust, this terrible, beautiful responsibility. She'd failed once, looked away for 1 second. 1 second. And Sophie had run into the street chasing a red ball that bounced like a heartbeat. 1 second between before and after, between mother and childless, between whole and shattered. 5 years ago, felt like yesterday, felt like a lifetime. A throat cleared, Lorelai's eyes snapped open. A man stood in the doorway, tall, lean, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her car. Dark hair falling across his forehead, eyes so hollow they looked bruised. Nathaniel Blackwell. He stared at the scene before him. 3 sleeping babies, a stranger in his nursery. His chest rose and fell too fast, like he'd been running or drowning. You made them stop. His voice came out rough, unused. They were frightened, Lorelei said quietly. Babies sense when they're alone, even in sleep. They weren't alone. With respect, Mr. Blackwell, they were. Something flickered across his face. Pain, anger, shame, all 3 at once. He looked at his sons, really looked. And Lorelei watched him break. I can't. The words came out broken. I can't look at them without seeing her. I can't hold them without feeling how light they are, how fragile. She was supposed to be here. She was supposed to know what to do. But she's not. No. He pressed the heel of his palm against his eyes. She's not. Silence stretched between them. Emmett stirred. Lorelei adjusted her grip automatically, rocking steadier. The baby settled. They need someone, Nathaniel said finally. Someone who doesn't see ghosts when they look at infant faces. Someone who won't leave when it gets hard. He lowered his hand, met her eyes. Mrs. Hendricks says you have experience, references. Why do you want this job? Lorelei looked down at the 3 babies sleeping in her arms. 3 boys who would grow up without their mother. 3 lives that could still be saved. Because I know what it's like to fail a child, she said. And I won't do it again. Nathaniel studied her. She didn't look away. You start today, he said. Live-in position. Room on this floor. Salary is generous, but the hours are every hour, day and night. I'm building skyscrapers and my company is bleeding money and I have exactly 0 capacity to handle domestic issues. Can you do this alone? Yes. Even when they all cry at once, even when you haven't slept in 3 days, even when you wonder why the hell you took a job raising someone else's children. Yeah, he almost smiled. Almost. You're either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both. This time he did smile. Small and sad and gone in a breath. I'll have Mrs. Hendricks show you to your room. We'll discuss details tonight. I have a conference call at 9:30 and 10 and noon. He backed toward the door. Stopped. Miss Ashford, yes. Thank you for making them stop crying. He left before she could respond. His footsteps receded down the hall. A door closed. An engine started. Tires on gravel, then silence. Lorelei looked down at the sleeping babies. Well, she whispered, looks like it's just us. The first week passed in a blur of bottles and diapers and crying that could wake the dead. Lorelei learned their rhythms. Emmett woke first, always hungry, always loud. Jasper woke whenever Emmett did, startled and weeping. Silas woke last, watching everything processing in that uncanny way of his. She learned to sleep in 20-minute increments, to eat standing up, to shower in 4 minutes flat, with one ear always listening for distress. Mrs. Hendricks brought meals on trays that Lorelei barely tasted. The woman never asked questions, never offered help, just delivered food and fresh linens and disappeared like a ghost. Nathaniel Blackwell materialized even less often. Lorelei heard him sometimes, late at night pacing in the room below hers, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4. She wondered if he slept at all, wondered if grief had the same schedule as infants. Wake every 2 hours, scream until exhausted, eventually collapse. By the second week, the babies began to settle. Not easier exactly, but predictable. Lorelei could tell the difference between hungry cries and tired cries and lonely cries. She sang to them, old folk songs and lullabies and sometimes just improvised melodies about whatever she was doing. Now we're changing Jasper's diaper, she'd sing, because Jasper made a mess. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Such a talented boy. Jasper would blink up at her with serious eyes, as if considering whether she was mocking him or praising him. Eventually, he'd decide on praise. His mouth would curve just slightly. Not quite a smile. Not yet. But close. Those almost smiles kept her going. One afternoon in late January, Lorelai finished feeding all three babies and decided they needed fresh air. Mrs. Hendricks had mentioned a garden, something about walking being good for digestion. She loaded them into a triple stroller that probably cost more than some cars, navigated down the elevator that she discovered led directly to the first floor, pushed them out into the backyard that stretched on forever. Roses, dozens of rose bushes perfectly pruned, a koi pond with a small bridge, fruit trees arranged in neat rows, and everywhere statues, marble figures frozen mid-dance, mid-laugh, mid-reach, beautiful and cold and utterly lifeless. The babies loved it. Emmett kicked his legs. Jasper made cooing sounds. Silas simply stared at everything, absorbing, filing away information for future use. Lorelai walked them along the stone path, stopped by the roses, bent down so they could see the red blooms. "These are roses," she told them. "They smell beautiful, but they have thorns. Things that are beautiful can still hurt you. Remember that." "That's quite a lesson for infants." Lorelai straightened so fast she nearly tipped out the stroller. A woman stood near the koi pond, late 60s silver hair in an elegant twist, wearing a dress that cost more than Lorelai earned in a month. "I'm sorry," the woman said, raising her hands. "I didn't mean to startle you. I'm Dorothy. Dorothy Blackwell, Nathaniel's mother." Lorelai had heard about her, the widow who'd raised Nathaniel alone after his father died young, built the family construction business from a small firm to an empire, retired 10 years ago but still held significant shares. "I'm Lorelai Ashford, the nanny." "Yes, Mrs. Hendricks mentioned you, said you're the first one to last more than 3 days." Dorothy approached the stroller, looked down at her grandsons. Her expression shifted, softened. Oh, they look like her. Isabel, the eyes especially." "Well, I wouldn't know. I never met her." "She was remarkable." Dorothy knelt slowly, joints protesting, touched Emmett's cheek. Fierce and kind and so excited to be a mother, she knew the pregnancy was high risk. Multiple babies often are. But she said 3 chances at love were worth 1 chance at heartbreak. Her voice cracked. She was wrong. Lorelai didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. Sometimes silence was the kindest response. Dorothy stood with effort. "My son is breaking, slowly. I watch him disappear into work, into grief, into this enormous house that echoes with everything he's lost. And these boys." She looked at the stroller again. "He can't even look at them." "He looked at them once, the day I arrived. Once in 3 weeks. That's not a father. That's a coward. That's a man in pain." Dorothy's gaze sharpened. "You defend him." "I don't know him well enough to defend or condemn. I just know pain makes people do strange things, cruel things sometimes, cowardly things often." Lorelai adjusted Jasper's blanket. "But that doesn't mean they can't heal." "You think he'll heal?" "I think he has 3 reasons to try." Dorothy studied her for a long moment, then nodded once, sharp, decided. "You're good for them, for all of them. Stay as long as you can, Miss Ashford. This family needs someone who hasn't given up yet." She left the same way she'd come, through a side gate that led to God knows where. Lorelai stood alone with the babies again. The afternoon sun stretched their shadows long across the perfect grass. She'd been here 2 weeks. 2 weeks of around-the-clock care. 2 weeks of slowly building trust with 3 tiny humans. 2 weeks of avoiding their father because he couldn't bear to face his own children. It wouldn't last. She knew that. Nothing good ever did. But for now, in this moment, the babies were safe, fed, loved. That would have to be enough. The weeks blurred together. February. Rain gave way to March sunshine. The babies grew. Not much, but enough to notice. Emmett could hold his head up longer. And Jasper smiled now, real smiles that lit up his whole face. Silas had started reaching for things with surprising accuracy. Lorelai documented everything in a journal. First smiles, first giggles, The day Emmett rolled from back to stomach and looked so surprised, she laughed until she cried. She wrote it all down. Someday, she told herself, Nathaniel would want to know. Someday, he'd ask what he missed. But that day never came. He left early, returned late. Sometimes she heard him on the stairs, stopping outside the nursery door, standing there in the dark, never entering, just breathing on the other side of the wall, then walking away. Coward, his mother had called him. Lorelai thought broken was more accurate. She'd been broken once too, still was in ways that mattered, so she didn't judge, just kept the babies alive and healthy and loved. Kept showing up, kept trying. That was all anyone could do. On a Tuesday in mid-March, Lorelai was doing laundry in the nursery when she found the box. It had been pushed to the back of the closet, hidden behind spare blankets and boxes of diapers. A simple wooden box, unadorned, except for carved initials on the lid. IMB Isabel Morrison Blackwell. Lorelai knew she shouldn't open it. This was private, sacred, a dead woman's belongings. But her hands moved anyway. Inside, a hospital bracelet, a dried rose, ultrasound photos of 3 blurry shapes, and at the bottom a leather journal. Lorelai lifted it out. The leather was soft, well worn. Someone had held this often, written in it regularly, loved it. She opened to the first page. Week 12. Found out today we're having triplets. Triplets. Nathaniel fainted. Actual fainting. The nurses had to bring him orange juice. I laughed so hard I cried. Or maybe I cried so hard I laughed. Same thing really. 3 babies. 3 hearts beating inside mine. I'm terrified. I'm thrilled. I'm going to need a bigger car. Lorelai smiled. She could hear Isabel's voice in the words. Light, warm, alive. She flipped forward. Weeks progressed. The entries grew longer, more detailed. Fears crept in around the edges. Week 24. Doctor says they're growing well, but I need to be careful. Bed rest, likely in 3rd trimester. High risk pregnancy. Those words scare me. High risk, like I'm walking a tightrope and one wrong step means falling. But I can't think that way. I have to believe we'll all make it through. Me and my 3 miracles. More pages, more weeks. The handwriting got shakier, harder to read. Week 36. They're coming. Tonight or tomorrow. C-section scheduled. I'm so scared. I have never been this scared. What if something goes wrong? What if I don't wake up? What if Nathaniel has to do this alone? Lorelai's throat closed. She knew how this story ended. Isabel knew too even then. Some part of her must have sensed it. She turned to the last entry. The handwriting barely legible now. Written in a hospital room probably. After the babies were born. Before everything went wrong. They're here. Emmett James. Jasper William. Silas Reed. 3 perfect boys. I held them. All 3. For 20 minutes before they took them to NICU. Best 20 minutes of my life. But something's wrong with me. I can feel it. The bleeding won't stop. Doctors trying everything. So tired. So cold. If I don't make it, no, when I don't make it. Let's be honest. I can feel myself leaving. Nathaniel, if you're reading this, don't let grief destroy you. Our boys need you. Be their father. Be present. Don't hide in work. Don't hide in sorrow. And find someone to help. Someone kind. Someone who understands loss, because only broken people know how to heal. There was a woman at the hospital, a volunteer in the maternity ward, Lorelai Ashford. She'd lost her daughter. I saw it in her eyes. That specific type of grief that never fades. But she still showed up, still smiled at new mothers, still cooed at babies that weren't hers. Find her, Nathaniel. She's the one our boys need. She understands what it means to fail and keep trying anyway. I love you. I love them. Take care of each other. Isabel. The journal fell from Lorelai's hands. She stared at her name on the page, written by a dying woman. Written by someone who'd seen her for exactly 10 minutes 2 years ago, when Lorelai was volunteering trying to fill the hours between grief and grief. Isabel had remembered her, had chosen her, had known somehow that their paths would cross again. Lorelai picked up the journal with shaking hands, pressed it to her chest, felt tears burn hot behind her eyes. "I'll keep them safe," she whispered to a ghost. "I promise, I'll keep them safe." Outside the nursery, floorboards creaked. Lorelai looked up. Through the crack in the door, she saw a shadow. Someone standing in the hallway, listening. The shadow moved. Footsteps retreated. She never found out who it was. Spring came to Beverly Hills in a rush of jasmine and heat. The roses bloomed aggressive and beautiful. Lorelai pushed the triple stroller through the garden every afternoon now. The babies loved the sunshine, loved the sounds of birds and wind and water from the fountain. She talked to them constantly, about everything and nothing, about the weather and the flowers and what she was making for dinner that she'd eat cold at midnight. "See that bird?" she'd say, pointing. "That's a mockingbird. It steals songs from other birds. Not very original, but excellent at execution. A valuable life lesson." Silas would track the bird with his eyes. Jasper would kick excitedly. Emmett would try to eat his own fist. They were 3 months old now, growing fast, developing personalities. Emmett loud and demanding and absolutely certain the world existed to serve him. Jasper gentle and quick to startle, but equally quick to forgive. Silas watchful and quiet, taking everything in, revealing nothing. Lorelai loved them. She hadn't meant to, hadn't planned to, but love didn't ask permission. It just arrived one day while you were changing a diaper or singing a lullaby or watching 3 babies sleep in perfect synchronization. It terrified her because love meant loss, always. Eventually, one way or another, love led to heartbreak, but she couldn't stop, couldn't pull back. These boys needed her. So she pushed the terror down and kept showing up, kept loving, kept trying. On the 3rd Tuesday in April, everything changed. Lorelai was in the kitchen preparing bottles when Mrs. Hendricks appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Blackwell will be bringing a guest to dinner tonight," she announced. "A woman, someone important." Lorelai looked up from measuring formula. Important how? The kind of important that wears $3,000 dresses and expects everyone to notice. Mrs. Hendricks's mouth thinned. "I don't like her, but that's not my place to say." "Then why say it?" "Because someone should." The older woman straightened. "Keep the babies quiet tonight. Upstairs, out of sight." But Ken Blackwell was very clear. Something cold settled in Lorelai's stomach. What's her name? Clarissa. Clarissa Beaumont. The name meant nothing. Not then, not yet. But Lorelai would learn. Oh God, she would learn. They arrived at 7. Lorelai heard the car, heard heels clicking on marble, heard laughter that sounded like crystal, pretty and sharp. She stood at the nursery window holding Emmett, watching the garden below. Nathaniel appeared with a woman on his arm, tall, blonde, wearing a dress that shimmered gold in the evening light. Beautiful. Lorelai felt something twist in her chest. Not jealousy. She had no claim on Nathaniel Blackwell. He was her employer, nothing more. But still, something twisted. Below, Nathaniel smiled at Clarissa. A real smile. The first Lorelai had seen. And suddenly she understood. This was how he would heal. Not through his children. Not through grief. Through replacement. Through someone new who didn't remind him of everything he'd lost. "Your father's moving on," Lorelai murmured to Emmett. "Maybe that's good. Maybe he needs to." But watching them walk through the garden together, watching Nathaniel touch Clarissa's back, watching him laugh at something she said, it didn't feel good. It felt like abandonment. The babies stayed upstairs that night. Lorelai kept them quiet through dinner, through dessert, through whatever happened after when Nathaniel walked Clarissa to her car and stood talking for 20 minutes in the driveway. When he finally came upstairs, it was past midnight. Lorelai was rocking Jasper back to sleep after a bad dream. She heard Nathaniel's footsteps, heard him pause outside the nursery door. For once, he opened it. "They're asleep," he asked softly. "Just barely." Lorelai kept rocking, kept her voice low. "Jasper had a nightmare." "Babies don't have nightmares." "Tell that to Jasper." Nathaniel stepped into the room, looked at his sons. In the dim light from the hallway, Lorelai couldn't read his expression. Clarissa thinks I should get out more, he said. She's probably right. I've been hiding. In work. In this house. In grief. He moved closer to the cribs. Looked down at Silas. She says I need to start living again. Do you want to? I don't know. He reached out, almost touched Silas's cheek, stopped an inch away. Isabel's been gone 3 months. Sometimes it feels like 3 years, sometimes 3 seconds. Grief doesn't have a timeline. No, but life does. The company needs me present. My mother needs me functional. And these boys, his hand dropped. They need a father who can look at them without falling apart. They need you, however you come. Nathaniel turned, really looked at her for the first time since she'd started. You're good at this, at knowing what to say, what to do. How did you learn? Lorelai looked down at Jasper, finally asleep in her arms. By failing once, by learning I couldn't protect the person I loved most, by spending 5 years trying to figure out how to live with that. She met Nathaniel's eyes. There's no manual for grief, Mr. Blackwell. You just survive it, one day at a time, sometimes 1 hour at a time. What if I can't? You can. Because you have to, because they need you to. He nodded slowly, stepped back toward the door, stopped. Thank you for everything you do, for making this bearable. I'm just doing my job. No, you're doing so much more than that. He left. The door closed. Lorelai sat in the darkness, rocking a sleeping baby, wondering why she felt like she just lost something important. Wondering why the name Clarissa Beaumont made her skin crawl. Wondering why she had the terrible, unshakable feeling that something bad was coming. Something worse than grief. Something dangerous. Clarissa Beaumont moved into the Blackwell estate on the first Saturday in May. Lorelai watched from the nursery window as a moving truck backed up the circular driveway. Designer luggage emerged first, then boxes marked fragile in aggressive red letters. Then Clarissa herself directing traffic like a general commanding troops. She wore white, head to toe, silk blouse and linen pants that probably cost more than Lorelai's monthly salary. Her blonde hair caught the sunlight and turned it into something celestial, angelic. From 3 floors up, watching a stranger invade the home she'd grown to love, Lorelai felt the first whisper of dread. The babies were 4 months old now. Emmett could grab objects and immediately try to eat them. Jasper had found his laugh a sound like hiccuping joy that made everyone smile. Silas had started responding to his name, turning his head when Lorelai called. They were becoming people, real, distinct, irreplaceable people. And now Clarissa was here. Should we go say hello? Lorelai asked them, adjusting Emmett's onesie. Be polite to the woman who's sleeping in your mother's bedroom. The words came out sharper than intended. She swallowed them back. This wasn't her business. Nathaniel was a grown man who'd lost his wife. If he wanted to move on, that was his right, his choice, his life. But something felt wrong. Lorelai had spent 4 months studying Nathaniel from a distance, learning his patterns. The way he avoided the 3rd floor, but sometimes stood at the bottom of the stairs at 2 a.m. just listening. The way he couldn't say his sons' names, but asked Mrs. Hendricks how they were sleeping. The way he left checks for Lorelai with notes attached. Thank you. You're saving us all. He was broken, distant, lost in grief and guilt and the wreckage of everything he'd planned. But he wasn't ready for this, for Clarissa, for the performance of moving on before he'd actually moved at all. Lorelai knew about false healing. She'd tried it herself after Sophie died, dating someone new, pretending normalcy, smiling through dinner while screaming inside. It never worked. The grief found you anyway. Usually at 3 a.m., usually when you were alone, usually when you'd convinced yourself you were fine. Below, Clarissa laughed, pretty and empty. Nathaniel appeared in the driveway. He took Clarissa's hand, kissed her cheek, smiled. And Lorelai understood with sudden, terrible clarity he wasn't healing. He was hiding, using Clarissa as a shield between himself and the life he couldn't bear to face. This won't end well, she told the babies. Mark my words. Silas looked at her with those 2 old eyes, as if he already knew. The first week, Clarissa played her part perfectly. She cooed over the babies, called them precious and darling, and sweet little angels. She asked Lorelai questions about their schedules and preferences. She held Emmett for photo opportunities when Nathaniel was around, smiling that magazine cover smile. But Lorelai noticed things. The way Clarissa's smile never reached her eyes when she looked at the babies. The way she passed Emmett back to Lorelai the second Nathaniel left the room. The way she said, "They're so lucky to have you," like she meant, "Thank God I don't have to deal with them." Week 2, the mask began to slip. Lorelai was changing Jasper's diaper when Clarissa appeared in the nursery doorway. No warning, no knock, just suddenly, they're wearing a silk robe and annoyance. "Do they always cry this early?" Her voice carried an edge Lorelai hadn't heard before. "It's 7 a.m. They're hungry. Can't you keep them quiet? I'm trying to sleep." Lorelai looked up from fastening Jasper's onesie. "They're infants. They cry when they need something. That's how babies work." "Well, can you work somewhere else? Maybe the kitchen soundproofing in this house is terrible." "The nursery is where I work, where they live." Clarissa's jaw tightened. For a moment, something flickered across her face, something cold and sharp. Then the mask returned. Smile, laugh, casual shrug. "Of course, I'm just not a morning person, you understand." She left, but the cold thing lingered. Lorelai picked up Jasper, held him close. "We need to be careful," she whispered against his soft hair. "Something's not right." By week 3, Clarissa had stopped pretending when Nathaniel wasn't home. Lorelai would find her in the living room, scrolling her phone, ignoring the babies crying upstairs. Or by the pool, tanning in a bikini that cost more than most people's rent earbuds in volume, loud enough that she couldn't possibly hear anything. Once Lorelai came downstairs to find all 3 babies screaming, red-faced, desperate. She'd been in the bathroom for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Clarissa stood in the kitchen, making herself a smoothie. The blender roared. The babies cried. She did nothing. "Excuse me," Lorelai said loudly. Too loudly. "Did you not hear them?" Clarissa turned off the blender. "Hear what?" "The babies. They're crying." "Oh." She poured her smoothie into a crystal glass. "I thought that was your job." "I was in the bathroom. And I'm not the nanny." Clarissa smiled, sweet as poison. "That's why Nathaniel pays you, isn't it? So I don't have to handle the messy parts." Lorelai's hands curled into fists. "Those messy parts are his children." "Exactly. His, not mine." She took a sip. "I'm here for Nathaniel. The babies are your department. Let's keep our roles clear, shall we?" She walked away, left Lorelai standing in the kitchen with fury burning in her throat. That night, after the babies were asleep, Lorelai knocked on Nathaniel's office door. "Come in." He sat behind his desk, surrounded by blueprints and financial reports. The desk lamp cast harsh shadows across his face. He looked older than 35, looked like a man being eaten alive by something he couldn't name. "Mr. Blackwell, I need to talk to you about the boys." He didn't look up. "Are they sick, injured?" "No. It's about Miss Beaumont." Now he looked up. "What about her?" Lorelai had practiced this, had planned exactly what to say, but standing here facing his exhaustion, his barely held together composure, the words felt cruel. "She's not good with them when you're not home. She ignores them, leaves them crying." "Clarissa's not their mother, Lorelai. She's not supposed to handle them. That's why you're here." But she lives in this house, with children. She can't just pretend they don't exist." Nathaniel set down his pen, slowly, carefully. "My company is drowning. I'm fighting off hostile takeovers and lawsuits and creditors who want to dismantle everything my family built. I am barely keeping my head above water, so forgive me if I don't have the bandwidth to referee domestic squabbles. This isn't a squabble. This is about your son's well-being. My sons are fine. They're fed clean, healthy. You see to that. That's what matters." "What about love? What about feeling safe? What about—" "Enough." His voice cracked like a whip. "I pay you extremely well to do a job. Do it. Stop inventing problems where none exist." The words hit like a slap. Lorelai stepped back. I'm not inventing anything. Then you're being dramatic. Clarissa is trying. She's adjusting. She didn't sign up to be an instant mother to triplets. He picked up his pen again, dismissed her without saying the words. Is there anything else? Lorelai thought about Isabel's diary, about the warning written by a dying woman, about the terrible feeling that something dark was blooming in this house. But looking at Nathaniel, at this man who couldn't even say his children's names, she knew he wouldn't hear it, wouldn't believe it, couldn't bear to face one more truth. No, she said quietly. Nothing else. She left him there, alone with his blueprints and his grief and his blindness. In the hallway, someone moved in the shadows. Lorelai's heart jumped, but it was just Mrs. Hendricks carrying fresh towels. She heard you, the older woman said. Not a question. Who? Miss Beaumont. She was standing right there. Mrs. Hendricks nodded toward the stairs, heard every word, then went to her room. She leaned closer. Be careful, Miss Ashford. That woman doesn't forget slights. I'm not afraid of her. Then you're a fool. Mrs. Hendricks walked away, her footsteps silent on the thick carpet. We're all fools here. The engagement had happened so fast it gave Lorelai whiplash. Early June, Nathaniel took Clarissa to dinner at some exclusive restaurant with a 2-month waiting list. They came home at midnight. Clarissa's hands sparkled with a diamond the size of a marble. Engaged. 4 months after moving in. 7 months after Isabel died. Lorelai heard the news from Mrs. Hendricks, who heard it from Nathaniel's assistant, who heard it from Nathaniel himself via email. Efficient, clean, emotionally sterile. The babies were 5 months old. They would have a stepmother before they turned 1. Lorelai said nothing, smiled when Clarissa showed off her ring, offered congratulations that tasted like ashes, went upstairs and held Silas while he slept, whispering apologies to a baby who couldn't understand but somehow seemed to anyway. I tried, she told him. I tried to warn him. He won't listen. The house changed after the engagement. Clarissa moved through it like she owned it, because soon she would. Soon she'd be met Nathaniel Blackwell, mistress of the estate, stepmother to 3 motherless boys. She started making decisions, small ones at first, moving furniture, redecorating the living room, hiring new staff. 2 housekeepers quit or were fired. Lorelai wasn't sure which. Mrs. Hendricks stayed grim-faced and silent. The new housekeepers were younger, prettier. They smiled at Clarissa and avoided eye contact with Lorelai. They're hers, Mrs. Hendricks said one morning, loyal to Miss Beaumont, not the family. Be careful what you say around them. Lorelai nodded. She'd already figured that out. The nursery became her fortress, the only room where Clarissa rarely ventured, the only space that still felt safe. She spent her days there, all day, all night, caring for 3 babies who were growing so fast it broke her heart. Emmett could sit up now, proud and wobbly. Jasper had found his hands fascinated by his own fingers. Silas tracked everything with those observant eyes, learning, processing, remembering. They knew her voice, her smell, her touch. When Lorelai entered the room, all 3 would turn toward her. Emmett with demanding arms up, Jasper with his gentle smile, Silas with that look that said, I know you, I trust you, don't leave. She wouldn't, she couldn't, even when Clarissa made it clear she wasn't welcome. One afternoon in late June, Lorelai was preparing bottles when Clarissa entered the kitchen. The 2 new housekeepers flanked her like attendants. Lorelai, not Miss Ashford, the formality had dropped. We need to discuss some changes. What changes? The nursery schedule. It's too rigid. The baby's crying wakes me up at night. Babies wake up at night. That's normal. Well, it's disturbing. I'm thinking we should move them to the 4th floor, away from the main bedrooms. Lorelai set down the bottle. The 4th floor is storage and guest rooms. No one's up there. If something happens, you'll have a baby monitor. You'll hear them. They're 5 months old. They need to be close to feel secure. They'll feel fine. Babies are adaptable. Clarissa smiled. Unless you think you can't handle being further away, maybe we need to reconsider your position. The threat hung in the air, clear, sharp. I can handle anything, Lorelai said evenly. But moving them isn't in their best interest. Good thing I didn't ask your opinion then. Clarissa turned to the housekeepers. Have the maintenance staff leave the cribs tomorrow. 4th floor, east wing. Wait, what does Mr. Blackwell say about this? Nathaniel trusts my judgment. He said I should make the house comfortable for myself. That's what I'm doing. She paused at the door. Oh, and Lorelei, try to keep them quieter. I'm planning our wedding. I need my beauty sleep. She left. The housekeepers followed. Lorelei stood alone in the kitchen, rage and fear warring in her chest. She couldn't let this happen. Couldn't let Clarissa isolate the babies. Isolate her. But Nathaniel wouldn't listen. He'd made that clear. So Lorelei would have to find another way. She would have to get proof. The announcement came over breakfast. Nathaniel and Clarissa were going to Hawaii for a week. Some resort, some island, some desperate attempt to recapture romance before a wedding neither of them seemed excited about. You'll be fine here with the boys, Nathaniel said. He wasn't asking. Of course, Lorelei replied. The new staff will be here if you need anything. By new staff, he meant Clarissa's people, the housekeepers who reported everything back to her. But Lorelei just nodded. They left on a Monday. The house felt different immediately. Emptier, darker, like something had been waiting for them to leave. Lorelei stood in the nursery, still on the 3rd floor, because she'd convinced Mrs. Hendricks to delay the move and made a decision. She would use this week, would find proof of what she already knew. Clarissa Beaumont was dangerous, and Lorelei would prove it. She started in Clarissa's bedroom, the room that used to be Isabel's. The thought made her sick, but she pushed through. This was necessary. This was about protecting 3 babies who couldn't protect themselves. The laptop sat on the desk, unlocked, careless. Lorelei sat down. Her hands shook as she opened the browser history. What she found made her blood run cold. Search after search, all recent, all damning. Swiss boarding schools accepting infants, youngest age, for residential childcare. How to convince husband to send children away. Nanny misconduct grounds for termination. Lorelei took photos with her phone. Her hands shook so badly, the images came out blurry. She deleted and tried again, until she had clear evidence. Then she saw the emails. One folder, hidden in a subfolder, marked simply N. She opened it. Messages between Clarissa and someone named Marcus. Recent, frequent, intimate, in a way that made Lorelei's stomach turn. Can't wait until this is official. Then we can start phase 2. How long do you think before he breaks completely? The company's dying. Give it 6 months. 6 months and I'm Mrs. Blackwell. 6 months and those brats are in Switzerland. 6 months and we're free. Lorelei read through a message after message, each one worse than the last. Clarissa wasn't just cold toward the babies. She was planning, calculating, waiting. And Marcus, whoever he was who was helping. Lorelei took photos of everything, dozens of photos, her phone filled with evidence, with proof, with ammunition. She was so focused on the screen that she didn't hear footsteps until they were right outside the door. Lorelei closed the laptop, stood, looked around frantically for an excuse to be here. But the footsteps passed, went downstairs. A door closed. She exhaled, left the room, went back to the nursery, and locked the door behind her. That night, she couldn't sleep. Just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her phone clutched in her hand. Tomorrow, she would call Nathaniel, would send him the photos, would force him to see the truth. Tomorrow, everything would change. She just had to survive until then. The call came at 2 a.m. Lorelei jerked awake, heart pounding, grabbed her phone. Nathaniel's number flashed on the screen. Hello, Lorelei. His voice sounded strange, tight. Is everything okay there? Yes, the boys are fine. Why? He paused. I couldn't sleep, kept thinking about them, feeling like something was wrong. Nothing's wrong, they're sleeping, safe. Another pause, longer. Clarissa says I worry too much, says I'm being paranoid. You're their father. Worrying is normal. Is it? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. I don't know what normal is anymore. I don't know what anything is. Lorelai sat up, turned on the lamp. Mr. Blackwell, do they look like her Isabel? Do my sons look like their mother? The question landed like a punch. Yes, the eyes especially. That's what I thought. That's why I can't. He stopped. Never mind. Go back to sleep. I'm sorry I woke you. Wait, there's something I need to tell you about Clarissa. Not now, please. I can't handle anything else right now. He sounded broken, defeated. Just keep them safe. That's all I'm asking. Keep them safe. He hung up before she could respond. Lorelai sat in the dark listening to 3 babies breathe, slow and steady, trusting, innocent. I will, she whispered to the empty room. I promise. But promises were easy to make, harder to keep, and the week was only half over. It happened Tuesday afternoon, 3 days after they returned from Hawaii. Clarissa actually insisted that Lorelai run to the pharmacy. Jasper needs his prescription. His pediatrician called it in. You need to pick it up before they close. Lorelai hesitated. Something felt wrong, that electricity in the air again. But Jasper did need his reflux medication. The pharmacy closed at 6. I'll be back in 30 minutes. Take your time, Clarissa smiled. I'll watch them. Lorelai should have known, should have felt it, but she went. 20 minutes later, her phone exploded with calls. Mrs. Hendricks, the housekeeper, Graham Winters, all at once. She answered Graham. Get back here, now. Jasper's hurt. Lorelai drove 90 miles an hour through Beverly Hills, ran 3 red lights, didn't care. When she burst through the door, Nathaniel was already there holding Jasper. Blood soaked through a white towel pressed to the baby's head. Jasper screamed that high pain-filled wail that makes your bones hurt. What happened? Lorelai grabbed for him, but Nathaniel turned away. We're going to the hospital. His voice came out dead. Now. Clarissa stood near the stairs, face pale, hands shaking. It was an accident. I looked away for 1 second. At the hospital, they stitched Jasper's head. 3 stitches above his left eyebrow. The doctor asked careful questions. How did this happen? He fell, Clarissa said quickly. Climbed out of his playpen somehow. Hit his head on the corner of the dresser. The doctor looked at Lorelai. 6-month-olds don't usually climb out. He's advanced, Clarissa said. But Nathaniel was staring at Jasper's arm. At the bruising there, small, finger-shaped, recent. How did he get these bruises? Clarissa's eyes widened. I don't know, maybe when he fell. These are grip marks. The doctor's voice went cold. Someone held him, hard. Silence fell like a blade. That night after Jasper was home and sleeping with a white bandage stuck against his baby hair, Nathaniel went to check the security footage. Lorelai watched him pull up the files. The timestamp from that afternoon, deleted. The system must have glitched, Clarissa said from the doorway. But Nathaniel's hands shook as he closed the laptop. His jaw tightened. His eyes went dark. And Lorelai saw it. The moment doubt became certainty. The moment he started to believe. He just wasn't ready to act on it yet. Friday morning, 2 days after Jasper's stitches, the house felt like it was holding its breath. Lorelai checked on the babies constantly. Jasper touched his bandage with confused fingers. Emmett and Silas stayed close to him as if they sensed something had changed. Something was wrong. Saturday night, Lorelai saw Clarissa pacing, talking on her phone in hushed tones. Something was coming. She could feel it. Sunday morning arrived with deceptive calm. Lorelai woke at 6, fed the babies, changed them, sang to them while they played on their mat. Emmett grabbed at Silas's hair. Jasper laughed, still able to laugh despite the stitches. Silas observed everything with those 2 knowing eyes. At 8:30, Lorelai went downstairs, just for a moment, to prepare their bottles, to grab fresh towels. 5 minutes, maybe 7. When she came back upstairs, she heard it, screaming, Clarissa screaming. Nathaniel! Oh my God, Nathaniel! Lorelai ran, took the stairs 2 at a time. Her heart slammed against her ribs. The nursery door stood open. Inside, chaos. The safety gate, the one that kept the babies contained in their play area, hung open unlatched. The overhead light was off despite the morning sun. Toys scattered everywhere, thrown deliberately. Pacifiers across the room. And strangest of all, an empty bottle of sleeping medication on the floor near Emmett's favorite blanket. The babies stood in their cribs screaming, red-faced, terrified. Not hungry cries, fear cries. The kind that came from being startled awake, from sensing danger. Clarissa stood in the center of the room, hair mussed artfully, face flushed, breathing hard, the performance of panic. "Oh, thank God you're here," she gasped when she saw Lorelai. "I heard them crying and came to check. The gate was open. The lights were off. They could have gotten hurt. They could have..." What? Lorelai moved to the cribs, lifted Jasper first, careful of his stitches. He clung to her, hiccuping with fear. "The gate was closed when I left, latched." "Well, it's open now, and look at this." Clarissa pointed at the pill bottle. "Were you giving them sleeping medication? Is that why they're always so quiet?" "That's not mine. I would never." "Then how did it get here?" Footsteps pounded up the stairs. Nathaniel appeared in the doorway, still in his pajamas, hair disheveled, eyes wild. "What's wrong?" I heard screaming from my room. "The babies," Clarissa said, rushing to him. Her voice shook perfectly. "Lorelai left them alone. The gate was open. The lights were off. And look." She held up the pill bottle. "Sleeping medication. She's been drugging them." Nathaniel looked at the scene. The open gate. The scattered toys. The darkness. The pill bottle. His sons crying. The bandage still white on Jasper's head. Then he looked at Lorelai. She saw it happen, saw the doubt creep in, saw him wanting to believe her but seeing evidence that screamed negligence, screamed danger. "I was gone 5 minutes, Lorelai said. Her voice came out steady despite the terror coursing through her. "The gate was latched, the lights were on, they were calm. And that medication isn't mine. I've never given them anything except what their pediatrician prescribed." "Then explain this." Nathaniel gestured at the room. "I can't." That was the truth. The terrible, helpless truth. She couldn't explain it because she hadn't done it. But someone had. Lorelai looked at Clarissa, at her perfect hair and her wide eyes and her trembling hands, at the performance of concern, at the lie. "You did this," Lorelai said quietly. Clarissa's eyes widened. "Excuse me. You staged this, opened the gate, turned off the lights, planted that bottle, scared them on purpose. That's insane. Why would I? To get rid of me." Silence fell like a blade. Nathaniel looked between them. The woman who'd cared for his sons for 7 months. The woman he was planning to marry. Both standing in a nursery that reeked of manipulation. "Lorelai, that's a serious accusation. And leaving infants alone with sleeping pills is serious negligence," Clarissa said. Her voice shook. Tears pooled in her eyes. Perfect tears. Movie tears. "Nathaniel, I'm scared. What if something had really happened? What if Jasper..." Her voice broke. "He already has stitches." "What if she gave him too much? What if nothing happened?" Lorelai said firmly. "Because I didn't do any of this. Because this whole thing is manufactured. You're being paranoid." "Am I? Or am I seeing clearly for the first time?" Nathaniel held up his hands. "Everyone stop. Just stop." He ran his fingers through his hair, looked at his sons, now quieting in Lorelai's arms, looked at Clarissa crying delicately, looked at Lorelai standing firm and furious, looked at the bandage on Jasper's head that he still didn't have answers for. His face went grey. His shoulders sagged. "I can't do this," he said. "I can't handle this right now. The company is falling apart. I'm facing hostile takeover attempts. I barely sleep, barely function. And now this." "Your sons need you to function," Lorelai said. "My sons have you." He said it like an accusation, like her competence was somehow the problem. "You've been here 7 months. You handle everything. Maybe too much. Maybe you're overwhelmed. Maybe..." "I'm not overwhelmed. I'm being sabotaged." "That's enough." His voice cracked like thunder. Lorelai, you're an excellent nanny, but if there's one more incident, one more question about their safety, I'll have to let you go. I can't risk it. Do you understand? The words hit like bullets. One more incident, one more setup, one more of Clarissa's games, and Lorelai would lose everything. Lose them. I understand, she said quietly. Good. Nathaniel looked at Clarissa. And you need to be more careful, more present. These are going to be your stepsons. Clarissa nodded, tears still streaming. I will. I promise. I got so scared when I heard them. I know. He touched her shoulder, then left, walking away from the truth because facing it was too hard, too complicated, too much. Clarissa waited until his footsteps faded. Then she turned to Lorelai. The tears vanished like they'd never existed. Her smile was "I." "One more week," she whispered. "That's all I need. One more week and you're gone." She left. Lorelai sank into the rocking chair holding 3 babies, understanding with perfect clarity that she was running out of time. Clarissa was escalating, getting bolder, and Nathaniel was too broken to see it. She needed help. Real help. She needed someone Nathaniel would actually listen to. That night, after the babies were asleep, after she checked the locks 3 times and positioned herself where she could see all 3 cribs at once, Lorelai pulled out the business card Matembis Hendricks had given her. Graham Winters, CFO, Nathaniel's oldest friend. She called. "Winters speaking." "Mr. Winters, my name is Lorelai Ashford. I'm the nanny for Nathaniel Blackwell's children. I need help." She told him everything. About Clarissa's coldness, the laptop searches, the emails with Marcus, the staged incidents, Jasper's injury, and the deleted footage. Her voice broke twice, but she kept going. When she finished, silence stretched long enough that she thought he'd hung up. Then, "My wife worked with Clarissa Beaumont 3 years ago. Different company, different man, same pattern." Lorelai's heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "Clarissa targets wealthy widowers, men drowning in grief. She moves fast, gets engaged. Then things get complicated. The man's family mysteriously starts having problems. Children get sick. Accidents happen. And Clarissa always comes out clean. The last man lost custody of his daughter in the chaos. Within a year, he'd lost everything. She walked away with a settlement." "But you have proof." "I have suspicions and whispers. But Miss Ashford, you have something better. You have evidence." His voice sharpened. "I want to see those photos. Every single one. Can you send them to me?" "Yes." "Do it now. I'll review them tonight. And if they show what I think they show, we're going to force Nathaniel to see the truth." "How?" "By making Clarissa confess on record." He paused. "But it's going to be dangerous. She's smart, calculating. If she realizes we're onto her." "I don't care about danger, I care about those babies." "Good, because tomorrow is Sunday. Nathaniel mentioned he's got an early morning golf meeting. He'll be gone from 7 to noon. That's when we make our move." "What do you need me to do?" "Come to the house like normal. Say goodbye to the boys, like Nathaniel asked. But bring recording equipment. I'll hide it in the nursery. When Clarissa comes in, and she won't be able to resist, you need to make her talk." "How?" "Provoke her. Push her buttons. Make her angry enough to drop the mask. Get her to say what she really thinks about those boys. About Nathaniel. About her plans." Graham's voice went hard. "I'll be listening from downstairs, recording everything. When we have enough, I'll call Nathaniel. Force him to come home. Force him to hear what she really is." "What if she gets violent? Can you handle yourself?" Lorelai thought about 7 months of loving 3 babies with everything she had. Thought about Sophie. About failure and redemption and the terrible mathematics of second chances. Thought about Isabel's diary and a dead woman's final wish. "Yes," she said. "I can handle anything." Lorelai arrived at the nursery at 8 a.m. Nathaniel had already left for his golf meeting, really a last-ditch attempt to save a deal that could keep the company afloat. The house felt empty without him. Graham Winters had come and gone at 7 while Clarissa was still asleep. He would place the recording device behind the changing table. Small, professional, nearly invisible. Make her talk, he had said. Get her to say what she really thinks, what she really plans. I'll be in my car at the end of the driveway, listening, recording. When we have enough, I'll call Nathaniel. Now Lorelei stood in the nursery, holding Emmett, while Jasper and Silas played on the mat. The bandage on Jasper's head was smaller now, but still there. Still a reminder of what Clarissa was capable of. "Morning, my loves," she whispered, kissing each of their heads. "This is going to be a big day, but whatever happens, I need you to know I love you. I'll always love you." The door opened. Clarissa stood there, still in her silk robe, hair loose around her shoulders, but her eyes were sharp, alert. She held a champagne glass at 8:30 in the morning, celebrating something, or preparing to. "Still here." She sipped her champagne. "I thought you'd be gone by now. I'm saying goodbye to babies who won't remember you." How touching. She stepped inside, set her glass on the dresser. "You know what I love about this room? Soon it'll be empty. The crib's gone, the toys packed away. Maybe I'll turn it into a closet. I could use more storage." Lorelei's hands tightened around Emmett. "They're not going anywhere." "Oh, sweetie, they absolutely are." Clarissa examined her nails. Perfect manicure, blood red. Swiss boarding school. Accepts children as young as 18 months. By next summer they'll be gone, and I'll finally have Nathaniel all to myself. He'll never agree to that. "Won't he?" Clarissa smiled. Cold, sharp, real. He can barely look at them, barely say their names. They remind him of everything he lost. I'm just offering him permission to let go. She moved closer. To move on, with me, without the constant reminder that his wife died giving birth to them. "You're using his grief." "I'm giving him an escape," she laughed. "And he's grateful for it. He tells me all the time. 'Thank you for understanding,' he says. 'Thank you for not judging me.' He has no idea what I really understand. Which is that he's weak, broken, easy to manipulate." Clarissa picked up her champagne again. "That those babies are obstacles between me and a very comfortable life. That once I'm Mrs. Blackwell, I'll have access to everything. Money, status, security. And Marcus and I can finally..." She stopped, smiled. "Well, that's not important. Marcus Lansing, your actual boyfriend, the man you're feeding company secrets to." Clarissa's face went white, then red, then carefully blank. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. I saw the emails, the plans, the corporate espionage. You're not just after Nathaniel's money. You're actively destroying his company so Marcus can buy it for pennies on the dollar. You're insane." "I have proof." Lorelei pulled out her phone, showed the screenshots. Every email, every search, every lie, all documented. Clarissa stared at the phone, at the evidence, at her own words reflected back at her. Something flickered across her face. Calculation, fury, fear. Then she lunged, fast, violent, grabbed the phone and threw it across the room. It hit the wall, shattered. "You bitch," Clarissa hissed. "You actually think anyone will believe you? I'll say you doctored those images. I'll say you're a jealous woman who wants my fiancé. I'll destroy you." "Go ahead, try." They stood there, face to face, all pretense gone, the monster finally visible. "You should have taken the firing," Clarissa said softly. "Should have left quietly, because now I'm going to make sure you never work again, never come near children again. I'll tell everyone you were inappropriate, unstable, that you drugged babies, that you hurt Jasper." Lorelei's voice came out deadly calm. "You hurt Jasper." "Prove it." "Oh wait, you can't. The footage is deleted. It's my word against yours. And I'm a beautiful 28-year-old socialite engaged to a billionaire. You're a 42-year-old nanny whose daughter died because she wasn't watching close enough." Clarissa leaned in. "Who do you think people will believe?" The Sophie reference was meant to wound, to break her, to make her crumble. Instead, it turned Lorelei's resolve to steel. "Get out," she said quietly. "Make me. Get out of this nursery. Now." Clarissa smiled, turned toward the cribs. "Maybe I should check on them. Make sure you haven't done anything negligent. Make sure they're safe with you." She reached for Silas. Lorelai moved without thinking, grabbed Clarissa's wrist hard. Don't touch them. Let go of me. No. They struggled, brief, violent. Clarissa yanked free faster than Lorelei expected, stumbled backward. Her hand caught the dresser. The champagne glass fell, shattered on the floor. Then Clarissa lunged, not at Lorelei, at the door. She slammed it shut, turned the old-fashioned deadbolt that Nathaniel had installed after Jasper's fall. The lock that was supposed to keep dangers out, now it locked them in. What are you doing? Lorelai's heart slammed against her ribs. Getting what I want. Clarissa backed toward the cribs. The babies had started crying, confused, frightened by the shouting and the breaking glass. One way or another. Clarissa, don't. Shut up! The scream was primal, real, all masks gone. You've ruined everything. Everything I was so close to having it all. She picked up Silas, not gently, grabbed him roughly by the arms, the same arms that would bruise later the same way Jasper's had. The baby shrieked in pain and terror. Put him down! No. Clarissa held Silas against her chest. Wrong, all wrong. Her grip too tight, his head unsupported. She backed toward the window. Nathaniel's on his way. Graham called him. I know the game. And when he gets here, you're going to tell him the truth. What truth? That you're the crazy one. That you attacked me. That you tried to hurt the babies and I saved them. She smiled. Cold, vicious, final. Or I drop him. The room tilted. You wouldn't. Want to test that theory? Clarissa moved closer to the open window. The window on the third floor, 30 feet above stone pavement. Lorelai's mind raced. The door was locked from inside. The key was in Clarissa's robe pocket. She could see it. The windows didn't open far enough to climb through. Her phone was shattered. She was trapped with a psychopath holding a baby near a deadly drop. Okay, Lorelai said slowly. Hands up, calm, every instinct screaming. Okay, let's talk about this. No talking, just confessing. Say you lied. Say I never did anything wrong. Say you're the dangerous one. I can't do that. Then I guess we'll see how much you care about these babies. Clarissa's grip on Silas tightened. The baby screamed louder, his face going red, his little body rigid with fear. 1, 2. Stop! Lorelai lunged forward. Clarissa stepped back toward the window. That's when the door exploded inward. Not opened. Exploded. The old wood splintered around the deadbolt as Nathaniel threw his full weight against it. Once. Twice. The frame cracked. On the third hit, the lock gave. He burst through Graham Winters right behind him. Both men froze at the scene before them. Clarissa, wild-eyed, holding Silas near an open window, Lorelai between them and the door, Emmett and Jasper screaming in their cribs, glass on the floor, the smell of champagne and fear. Don't come closer, Clarissa warned. Her voice came out high, manic. Don't you dare! Clarissa, Nathaniel's voice came out strangled. Give me my son. Your son, your son. She laughed, high, unhinged. He's not yours. None of them are yours. They're Isabel's. Dead weight, dead future. They killed her and you can't even admit it. That's not. Yes, it is. Spittle flew from her mouth. She died giving birth to them. They took her from you and you're too much of a coward to say it out loud. To admit you wish they died instead of her. That's not true. But Nathaniel's voice cracked. Isn't it? Then why can't you look at them? Why can't you say their names? Why did you replace her with me so fast? Clarissa's eyes glittered with tears. Real tears finally. Tears of rage. I did everything right. I played the perfect girlfriend, the perfect fiancée. I smiled and cooed and pretended to care about these screaming, needy, pathetic. Lorelai moved. Fast. Using Clarissa's distraction. Using 7 months of muscle memory from lifting babies. She dove forward, grabbed Silas, pulled him from Clarissa's arms with all her strength. The baby came free. Lorelai stumbled backward, held him close, safe. His screams deafening but beautiful. Because he was alive, he was safe, he was. Clarissa spun, rage and shock warring on her face. "You bitch!" Graham caught her, grabbed her arms from behind, held her firm despite her thrashing, despite her screaming, despite her nails raking his hands. "I called the police," he said calmly. Over her thrashing, over the baby's crying, over Lorelai's gasping breaths. "They're on their way. Corporate espionage, attempted harm to minors, assault, fraud. You're done, Miss Beaumont." Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer, getting real. Clarissa stopped fighting, just stared at Lorelai, holding Silas, at Nathaniel, lifting Emmett and Jasper from their cribs with shaking hands, at the family she tried to destroy. "You'll fail them," she whispered. "All of you. You'll fail, and they'll suffer, and it'll be your fault. Just like Sophie, just like Isabel, just like everyone you've ever—" "That's enough." Lorelai's voice cut like a blade. "You don't get to talk about them. You don't get to say their names. You're nothing. You were always nothing. And now everyone knows it." The police arrived. 2 officers, a detective. They took statements. Graham provided documentation, the recordings, the emails, the evidence Lorelai had collected. Everything. One officer looked at Clarissa with disgust. "Clarissa Beaumont, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit corporate espionage, attempted harm to minors, assault, fraud, and child endangerment." They read her rights, cuffed her. She didn't fight, just walked between them like a queen being led to execution. Head high, back straight. Dignity as her last defense. At the door she stopped, looked back one last time. "This isn't over," she said. "Yes," Nathaniel said quietly. "It is." She left. They led her down the stairs, through the mansion she tried to make hers, past Mrs. Hendricks, who watched with grim satisfaction, out the front door into waiting police cars. Gone. Finally, terribly gone. The house fell silent after the police left. Graham stayed making phone calls, arranging lawyers, explaining to the detective everything they'd uncovered about Marcus Lansing and the corporate espionage. "He was arrested an hour ago," Graham said, hanging up. "FBI. They'd been building a case against him for months. Clarissa's emails were the final piece they needed. He's looking at 8 to 12 years federal prison." "And Clarissa?" Lorelai asked. She sat in the nursery rocker, all 3 babies in her lap. She couldn't put them down, couldn't stop touching them, making sure they were real, safe, hers. 8 to 12 as well if the DA goes for maximum sentences, with priors, and there are priors we're discovering, maybe more. She's done. Graham looked at Nathaniel, who sat on the floor, head in his hands. "She's never coming back." Nathaniel didn't respond, just sat there breathing, existing, processing. Mrs. Hendricks appeared with tea no one would drink, set it down, stood in the doorway, wringing her hands. "I'm sorry," she said. "I should have done more. Should have pushed harder. Should have." "You did enough," Lorelai said. "You saw. You validated. That mattered." The older woman nodded, left. The house settled around them. Graham cleared his throat. "I should go. Let you process." But Nathaniel, he'll wait until his friend looked up. "You need to take a leave of absence. Real leave. Not vacation. Not working from home. Actually absent from the company. I'll handle everything. You need to be here. With them. I don't know how." "Then learn." Graham stood, walked to the door, stopped. "Lorelai." "Yes. You saved this family. More than once. Don't let anyone, including yourself, forget that." He nodded once, left. The house fell silent again. Just Lorelai and Nathaniel and 3 babies who'd survived something they were too young to understand but would somehow always remember. "I'm sorry," Nathaniel said finally. His voice came out broken. "I'm so sorry. For not listening, for not seeing, for bringing her into your lives." Into their lives. For failing them. For failing you. For Stop. Lorelai's voice was gentle but firm. You were grieving. You were manipulated. She's a professional. She knew exactly what buttons to push, what wounds to exploit. I should have been stronger. You're human. She shifted Silas in her arms. He'd fallen asleep, exhausted from crying. Humans break. Humans make mistakes. What matters is you're here now. You came back. You broke down a door for them. Nathaniel looked at his sons. Really looked, for maybe the first time since they were born. I don't know how to be their father, he whispered. I don't know what they need. I don't know how to. None of us know, Lorelai said. We just show up. We try. We fail. We try again. That's all parenting is. Showing up even when you're terrified. Are you terrified? Every single day. He laughed. Small, sad, real. How do you do it? I think about the alternative, about what happens if I don't. She looked down at the 3 sleeping babies. I think about Sophie, about the second I looked away, about how I'd give anything to have that moment back, to try again. Her voice cracked. I can't save her, but I can save them, so I do. Every day, every moment, I choose to save them. Nathaniel stood slowly, moved to the cribs, ran his fingers over the rails, over the mobiles, over Jasper's nameplate. Emmett, he said softly. Jasper, eh? Silas. The names came out rough, unpracticed, like words in a foreign language. My sons. Your sons, Lorelai confirmed. Can you teach me how to care for them, how to be what they need? I can try. That's all I'm asking. He looked at her, really looked. Don't leave, please. I'll triple your salary, give you anything you want. Just don't leave them. Don't leave us. Lorelai thought about Isabel's diary, about a dying woman who'd seen something in her, who'd chosen her, who'd known. I'm not going anywhere, she said. I promised Isabel. I keep my promises. Winter came to Los Angeles in whispers. Cooler mornings, golden afternoons. The roses bloomed their final round before dormancy. Lorelai pushed the triple stroller through the garden same as always. But everything had changed. Nathaniel walked beside her now. This was his routine. Come home at 5. Dinner with his sons at 6. Bath time at 7. Stories at 8. Sleep by 9. His own sleep finally. Real sleep. He'd taken 3 months leave. Handed the company to Graham, fought off the hostile takeover that had been Marcus's plan all along, restructured, rebuilt, emerged stronger. But mostly, he'd been present, learning to change diapers at 2 a.m., learning the difference between hungry cries and tired cries, learning his sons. The babies were 11 months old now. Emmett could walk wobbly, determined, falling constantly but getting up every time. Jasper could say Dada and meant it. Silas had figured out how to open the safety gate and considered this his greatest achievement. The scar above Jasper's eyebrow was fading, would always be there, a reminder, but fading. Tomorrow's their birthday party, Nathaniel said. Small, just family. Dorothy's coming, Graham and his wife, Mrs. Hendricks. They'll love it. Will you stay? After the party, after they turn 1. He asked it carefully, like the answer might break him. Where else would I go? You could go anywhere, do anything. You saved my sons, saved me. You don't owe us anything more. Lorelai stopped the stroller, looked back at him. At this man who'd been so broken, who was slowly healing, who showed up now, who tried. I don't stay because I owe you, she said. I stay because I love them, because I love this. Because this is home. I know He stopped beside the stroller, looked down at 3 babies who looked back with trust. I want you to know your family. Not staff, not employee. Family. If anything ever happens to me, you're their guardian, legal guardian. I updated my will last month, made it official. Tears burned behind Lorelai's eyes. Nathaniel. No, let me finish. You didn't fail Sophie. You looked away for 1 second. That's not failure. That's being human. His voice cracked. But you saved my boys. You fought for them when I couldn't. You're the reason they're safe. The reason I'm still standing. The reason this family survived. And I need you to know that matters. You matter. She couldn't speak, could only nod. That evening, Lorelai tucked each baby into their cribs, kissed each forehead, whispered the same words she'd said every night for 11 months. I've got you. You're safe. I've got you. Downstairs, Nathaniel sat in the living room, not working, just sitting, looking at photos of Isabel, allowing himself to remember, allowing himself to grieve without running. The house felt different now, lighter, like something heavy had lifted, like they could finally breathe. Lorelai touched the locket around her neck, opened it, looked at Sophie's gap-toothed smile. I did it, she whispered. I saved them. I kept my promise. And for the first time in 5 years, the guilt loosened its grip. Just a little, just enough. The first birthday party happened on a sunny Saturday. Small gathering in the garden, balloons, a cake shaped like building blocks, 3 high chairs, and 3 babies covered in frosting. Dorothy Blackwell cried watching her grandsons. Graham and his wife brought gifts. Mrs. Hendricks actually smiled. Nathaniel sat on the grass with Emmett in his lap. The baby grabbed his father's face with sticky hands. Nathaniel laughed. Real laughter. The sound carried across the garden like music. Lorelai stood back, watching, documenting this moment, this family, this miracle. Later, after everyone left and the babies were asleep, Nathaniel found Lorelai by the fountain. She sat watching koi swim in endless circles. Can I join you? It's your garden. He sat. They watched the fish together. The sun set slow and gold. I visit Isabel's grave every Sunday, he said. I tell her about the boys, about Emmett's first steps, about Jasper saying new words, about Silas's mischief. That's good. I told her about you, about what you did, what you sacrificed. He looked at her. She knew. In that diary, she knew you were the one. I think about her every day, wonder if I'm doing what she'd want. You're doing more than she could have dreamed. They sat in comfortable silence, 2 broken people who'd found purpose in protecting 3 small lives, who'd learned that family wasn't blood. It was choice. It was showing up. It was the love made manifest. 1 more year, Nathaniel said finally. Let's promise each other 1 more year of this. Then we reassess. Lorelai smiled. 1 more year. But they both knew the truth. There would be many more years, many more birthdays, many more moments of joy and terror and exhaustion and love. Because some promises weren't meant to be temporary. Some promises were forever. Some families were chosen. And some nannies saved more than lives. They saved souls. In a mansion in Beverly Hills, 3 babies sleep. Their father sits beside them, finally present, finally whole, and a woman who lost everything once keeps watch through the night. Not because she has to, because she chooses to, because love is always a choice, and she chooses them every single day, forever.